As we recap day 4 here on Radio Row, we're still talking Maxx Crosby, we're still talking Klint Kubiak, and of course, Fernando Mendoza. That plus more comes up on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast for February 6, 2026.
You are Locked On Raiders, your daily Las Vegas Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your number one sports podcast network. We're definitely very proud of that. We're also very proud of the fact that this show continues to grow each and every day, and that's because of your consistent support, Raider Nation. Of course, the great job that my man Ari does behind the scenes, making sure we look good and sound good each and every day. So we shout him out. We appreciate him. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces, and we also shout you out, Raider Nation. We definitely could not do this and would not do this if it was not for you. So thank you, and thank you again. And, of course, you can find me on Twitter if you want to hit me up at your boy Q254. Be a part of the show, 707-654-4693. And a lot of calls, a lot of texts. We'll get to as many as possible as we close out the show in segment number 3 and close out the week and head into Super Bowl weekend, Super Bowl 60, the Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. So excited about this weekend, excited about seeing this football season get wrapped up, and, of course, what's to come after that for the Silver and Black in particular. So calls and texts, that'll be in segment number 3. Segment number 2, you'll hear from Brock Huard. I caught up with him on Radio Row. Matter of fact, caught up with him on Wednesday to talk all things, Klint Kubiak. Brock is in Seattle. He was a quarterback. He played for the Seahawks. He played a handful of years in the NFL as a quarterback. Came from Washington, the University of Washington, where he was a quarterback, played at a very high level. So he's there. He knows the Seahawks inside and out. So I got to talk to him a lot about Klint Kubiak. Also, since he was a quarterback, is a quarterback, whatever you want to call it, he knows a little something about the position, so I definitely asked him about Fernando Mendoza. You'll hear that coming up in segment number 2. Here in segment number 1, just news and notes of the day, and it really is just a recap of what's been going on all week long here on Radio Row, and talk a lot about Maxx Crosby. We'll jump into that after I tell you about the title sponsor of the show, which is FanDuel. It's the last call for football, like really the last call for football on FanDuel. If you're a new customer, just bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets if you win. So, Day 4 Radio Row officially in the books. One more day to go, and then be getting ready to get back in that car and make that ride back to Las Vegas and get ready for a big Super Bowl party that I'll be hosting coming up on Sunday. But first thing first, we got to talk about and recap Day 4. Obviously, there was a lot of conversations about Maxx Crosby after what happened on Wednesday between Jay Glazer and Diana Rossini, and all the conversation about Maxx Crosby possibly wanting out, going and getting traded to the Patriots or other. And so that conversation, was a lot going on Thursday. And it felt like, and there was even some video floating around social media, Jay Glazer saying, well, Max didn't say that. That was actually me that said that. To me, it feels like, one, where there's, I say it all the time, where there's smoke, there's fire, right? I don't think Jay Glazer, with the reputation he has and what he's been doing for a long time. Like I said, he's got a lot of credibility in the game, so he's not just going to all of a sudden come up with something and throw it against the wall and hope that it sticks just to try to, like a lot of people say, clickbait. Like, he doesn't need that. He's already, he's got the credibility. So it's usually guys that don't have credibility that go for clickbait, right? That they just do it because that's what they want to do, and they want to stir something up and they want to get some attention. He doesn't need any attention. He gets all the information, and he's really close to Max, and so I don't think that he'd want to violate anything. But with him coming back and saying, well, that wasn't Max saying, it was me, it almost feels like it was, hey, man, that was something that wasn't supposed to get out. Like, that was a conversation between the two of us. That wasn't something that was actually meant for Radio Row. So, you got to – there's so much strategy involved here when it comes to a potential trade. And that's what, if you're just tuning in, that's what Jay Glazer basically said. He didn't think Maxx Crosby was going to be part of the Raiders moving forward, thought that he was going to get traded before the trade deadline. That's what he told our good friend Jason Fitz from Yahoo Sports. So with that being said, I think that there's a lot of kind of backtracking to either, not get that out right now. Maxx Crosby maybe doesn't feel like that's what he wants to do at this stage of the game. Again, it came from somewhere. It's not like they just came out of nowhere. It definitely came from somewhere. So I believe that, it could have, some of Maxx Crosby saying, nah, hey, man, that's not exactly the way that we wanted to approach this. Or the other side of this is, once teams know that a guy wants out, the value of the trade goes down. So it very easily could have been, put out there by Jay Glazer, and the Raiders hit up Max like, hey, man, if you want out, we got that, but don't decrease your own value, right? Don't decrease the value. I mean, we're trying to maximize. If, in fact, again, this is just me spitballing. This is us standing around the water cooler, trying to talk about and speculate what, could be going on. Because, again, it did feel like a little bit of a backtrack. But I do think there's some real legs here and that there's something could happen. I've been saying it for a while that I don't think that the Raiders are a team that wants to move on from Maxx, but I do believe that they would honor his wishes if, in fact, he wanted to get out of there. So I do think that it's best for the organization if they can get the most, for him in return, if in fact that's the direction that they want to go and they do go. Again, don't want to see a guy like that, a guy that's talented like that, leave the building, but I get it. He's done everything right by this organization since he's been drafted as a fourth-round pick back in 2019. He's done everything right. He's received multiple contract extensions, and he just got one last year, right? I mean, it was this time last year when we were on Radio Row in New Orleans, and I was doing a show on ESPN Radio with Hembo, and he was sitting in the Airstream studio with us and said, hey, I need to see what's going on with Pete Carroll. I need to see what's going on with the plan that this organization has moving forward. And he felt pretty good because a few days later he signed that contract extension. Then a few days later, Myles Garrett got a contract extension that was even greater than his. And so it's not a money situation. That's what a couple of people have said to me on Radio Row. Maybe he wants a contract extension. He just got one. So I don't think that would be the case. I think that if anything, he probably just wants to win and knows that this is not going to be an overnight turnaround. This is not going to be one of those where, you get a quarterback and a player here and a player there, and all of a sudden you're in the playoffs and maybe playing in the Super Bowl. Like, that doesn't look like that's what's going to happen. Now, anything can happen where you can strike lightning in a bottle and you can have a really good season. But as John Spytek said, he really wants to build this thing up so they can sustain success. So it's not just one of those, you go to the playoffs in 2016, then you don't have any playoff appearances until 2021. Then you don't have any playoff appearances until 2026 or whatever the case may be. Like, it's so few times that they've gone to the playoffs that they need to find a way to build up this roster where it's something that every single year, this is going to be a playoff team. This is going to be a team pushing for the playoffs and potentially making a deep run. That's what they have to do. And if it ends up meaning that they have to trade Maxx Crosby and get some more draft capital so they have a couple extra first-round picks, maybe one this year, maybe one next year, if, in fact, that's how much a team is willing to give up for him, I don't really know, right? I mean, the market for him from conversation here on Radio Row is it's such a big range, right? Like Ian Rappaport, and you heard it on the show yesterday, he said, a late first-round pick. And that's because a team that's willing to trade for him is probably a team like the Bills. They're not picking in the top 10. A team like the Bears, they're not picking in the top 10. A team that, feels like they're one Maxx Crosby away from going to the Super Bowl, like the Lions, right? They can make a deep run into the playoffs. They're not going to be picking in the top 10. So it would be a late first-round pick. Others are saying you can get 2 first-round picks. I don't know if that's realistic or not. I really don't. And again, it's not me that is setting the market. It's a team. And if a team, decides that that's the missing piece and it's worth them to give up a couple first-round picks, maybe they'll do it, right? And then all of a sudden you look at it and say, man, that's a heck of a haul that you got for Maxx Crosby, which would be a good win. Again, I'm not in the camp of trade him, and I think that's a good idea, but I understand the dynamics. I understand the economics behind it. Right, I understand that by the time this team is really going to be good, which I do believe will be, a couple years away, Maxx is going to be on the wrong side of 30. And how much of, the maximum effort, the great Maxx Crosby are you going to still have in him? And is he going to end up looking back and almost feeling resentful toward the organization? Like, man, the best years of my life were wasted away with the Raiders team that wasn't winning more than 3 or 4 games. Now, the one thing I'll say, and, I had a guy I was doing a show with on a Thursday night on ESPN Radio. No, not Thursday night. It was Wednesday night on ESPN Radio. David Dennis Jr. He said, man, look, the Raiders have been so bad that they shouldn't have the ability to use the franchise tag because they don't won enough games. And I was like, wait, hold on. What are you talking about? He's like, well, you're keeping Maxx Crosby hostage. I said, look, he signed a contract extension. It's not like they put a franchise tag on him. They didn't twist his arm and say you had to stay there, right? They didn't put him in a jail cell below the facility and say you only can come out here to eat and work out and go play a game, right? No, I mean he had the opportunity to sign a contract extension and he did. So I mean, as much as he could say that, well, my better years were wasted away not winning, and I get that and I understand that, and I'm very mindful of what he wants and his wishes, he still did sign a massive contract, right? And so he did still get paid. And, of course, he's got a lot of love for the organization and Mark Davis and Tom Brady, and I know that he's really tight with all those guys. And, again, at the end of the day, it could be something that we look up at and say, yeah, it's the same old conversation every year. Every year it seems like someone's trying to, get the Raiders to trade Maxx Crosby away. And that could end up being what this is, or it could actually lead to something. And if it does lead to something, the Raiders have to make sure that they do right by Max, and they have to make sure that they do right by the organization and get the most for the value. So this conversation is going to continue to roll around, right? There's going to be a lot of speculation. But like I said, wherever there's smoke, there's fire. This conversation about Max being traded didn't just pop up out of nowhere. Somebody sitting in their basement, here on Radio Row didn't decide that they were just going to make something up. Jay Glazer wasn't like, well, let me just figure out what I'm going to do today. No, I mean, there was something there. There's something there. I'll be the first to admit that, and we'll just have to see if this evolves into anything or if it just ends up being, a little bit of a smoldering fire, and then someone comes out and puts a little water on it and it's out. I mean, it could be that simple. But the vibe I got, I guess I could give you a long-winded way of saying the vibe I got on Radio Row on Thursday was it was being backtracked just a little bit from the strong take that Jay Glazer and even Diana Rossini to a certain extent had on Wednesday to, maybe it's not just quite as strong. And maybe Max isn't really standing there at the front of the congregation and saying, trade me out of here. I want to go somewhere else. And again, when he says that and when we actually hear him say that, like my guy Emmett Golden says, put it on wax. Say it with your chest. When he puts it on wax and he says it with his chest, then it'll become a real situation. But until then, it's just a lot of conversation, a lot of rumors and reports, and, of course, it's something to keep an eye on for sure. But what about Klint Kubiak? What about Fernando Mendoza? I talked to a guy on Wednesday in Brock Huard who knows Klint Kubiak really well because he's there in Seattle and talks with them and covers them like a glove. You'll hear from him coming up in segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple of the great sponsors we have here on the show, and the first one is ZocDoc. Finding a doctor you actually like can feel like discovering a diamond in the rough. Sure, you want someone who's in network, nearby, and has availability, but you also want a doctor who listens, makes you feel comfortable, and explains things clearly. That kind of doctor, it exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and book high-quality, in-network doctors so you can find someone you love without all the hassle. Trust me, in-network is the key. Don't get them out of network, please. Trust me, you'll thank me later. We're talking all booking in-network appointments with more than 150,000 providers across all 50 states, covering over 200 specialties from primary care and dentistry to dermatology and eye care. You can see real-time availability, book instantly with no phone calls, no waiting, no hold. You can also read verified patient reviews so you feel confident choosing a doctor that you'll actually like. Well, how do you do that? Stop putting off these doctor appointments and go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a doctor that you love today. I also want to tell you about Indeed. If you've ever hired someone who looked good on paper but wasn't that right fit, well, you know how important that is. When you want candidates who truly match what you're looking for, trust Indeed sponsored jobs. Hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed sponsored jobs put your post at the top of the page and help you reach the right candidates faster. So if you need to hire someone, don't fire them. If you want to hire them, then go straight to Indeed. Be very specific about what you need. Real experience and not just a resume buzzword. Instead of struggling to get your job post seen, Indeed sponsored jobs help your listing stand out and reach quality candidates faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posts directly on Indeed are 90% more likely to report a hire than non-sponsored jobs. So spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes with less stress, less time, and more results using Indeed sponsored jobs. Listeners of the Locked On Raiders podcast will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help give your job the premium placement it deserves at Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. Again, let them know that you heard about it on the Locked On Raiders podcast. Indeed.com/LockedOnNFL. You're going to get hooked up. Support the show. Support Indeed. You heard it here on the show. Terms and conditions do apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. The beautiful thing about being here on Radio Row, besides it's actually cold as ice as I'm recording this right now, and it's so funny, I got this Carl Kanai beanie on, and I had it on yesterday's show as well, and I know a lot of people saw me repping it and thought, man, that's a cool little beanie. First of all, I got to meet Carl Kanai. Yeah, that Carl Kanai. I actually interviewed him on Radio Row on Wednesday. It was fantastic, and he gave me this beanie. Well, it came in handy because it is ice cold here, especially late at night. And every night I'm here super late. I'm the only one here right now. Like, if I could put you on a camera and put it all around this whole Moscone Center, I'm literally the only dude left. The only people are me and the police, which makes me feel safe. But it's kind of lonely, and it's very cold. So that's why I got the beanie cap on because, well, they have the temperature very low, all the equipment, all the people that are normally in here during the day, but obviously it's at night. So anyway, the other thing about being here on Radio Row is you get to meet so many people that I would normally either have on my radio show, talk to here and there, might reach out and send them a text or whatever, trying to get some information. Everybody is in one spot. So I'm able to grab a guy here, grab a guy there. And that's what happened when I was able to talk to Brock Huard, Seattle Sports 710. That's where he works. He was a NFL quarterback, played at Washington, the University of Washington. He was a heck of a quarterback there. And he knows Klint Kubiak really well. So he sat down with me on Wednesday, and we talked about the Seahawks, the Super Bowl, and a lot more. But, of course, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't get into the conversation about Klint Kubiak. So this part of the conversation starts off with what the Raiders are getting in Klint Kubiak.
Yeah, it's as usually happens, and I don't think this was Spytech nor Brady nor anybody's like, oh, we got to just the pendulum's got to just swing from the 70-year-old Pete to the 30-something Klint. I don't think that was the intent, but right. I think you go in much like John Schneider did when he hired Mike McDonald and went, ooh, this guy's really good. Mm-hmm. Now, he's going to have some growth to do.
Right.
The presence, the speaking skills, the owning a room, owning a team meeting. McDonald's super vulnerable about that. Mm-hmm. It was actually on our show in training camp. I had never heard a coach do this, and I'll get to Kubiak in a second. But I think it's tangential. Coach McDonald sat with us, like we're sitting here talking at training camp, and he said, yeah, I'm working with the group that evaluates me. So I send my team meetings to these two, one of them Stephen Hauschka, Michael Gervais, the other, their consultant group, and they evaluate my presentation.
Okay.
And I was like, that's pretty good, Coach.
Yeah.
Like you're sitting here every day evaluating your players, and guess what? You're being honest, transparent, that you got to get better.
Right.
And you got to grow in your skills to communicate. And following in the steps of Pete, like this room's been pretty used to a pretty good orator. So you're going to have to grow in that, and he has.
Yeah.
And watching him even at these press conferences at the Super Bowl, I'm like, that ain't the same dude from last year.
Right.
Kubiak will have to do the same.
Okay.
Klint can
but
lead.
It's possible.
100%.
It's possible to do it.
Because he's watched it, because
right.
he's humble, because he watched his dad do it. Gary wasn't the most effervescent.
Right.
And Klint's going to be the same way. He's going to be authentically Klint.
Yeah.
And what he says, he follows through on. And what he says is what he means. And there's not a lot of fluff there.
Right.
It's not going to maybe be like the most bombastic radio, just like Mike McDonald isn't.
Yeah.
But it is freaking straight shooter. My word is gospel, and I'm going to follow through on it, and the guys are going to follow me because of it.
That scheme that he runs,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty stinking good.
It's been pretty good for a long time.
When I'm watching JSN be wide open,
yep.
He's going to get doubled and triple teamed all the time, but just the motion,
that's right.
The where he lines them up,
yep.
he finds a way to be wide open. If you're Brock Bowers,
yes.
if you're, Big Mike, Michael Mayer, if you're any wide receiver, Ashton Genty, how excited should you be for this offense?
Oh, he's going to create, one-on-ones for you. I had an old coordinator in Indianapolis, Tom Moore, who just retired at 87. Yes. And he would say, my job is to get you a one-on-one. Your job is to win it.
I will never get that out of my mind now.
And so I'm getting you one-on-ones.
Yeah.
In this league, that's my job.
Right.
Your job, you got to go win those.
Win it.
And
I like that.
Yeah, JSN's capable, Brock's capable, Ashton's capable. Now you need help up front.
Of course.
And you know who else needed help up front? The Seahawks.
Yeah.
Because for like 10 years up front, they were a mess.
Right.
And all of a sudden, Charles Cross and Abe Lucas and Gray Zabel and Klint will do the same. He knows where it starts. You can have all those pretty pieces.
Right.
But you can draw it up on toilet paper and flush it if you can't protect it. So they're going to have to invest up front. I don't think he can do in year one what Mike McDonald and Klint Kubiak did in year one together. Right. Because the pieces aren't there in Vegas.
No. It's definitely got to be a build.
Yes.
Right? And the Raiders have to prove that they can be patient.
Yep. But got a lot of money.
Yeah.
Got to get the right guys up front. You've got to draft the right guys. And that's been probably behind the scenes the biggest turn this year with Seattle is our group up front.
Okay.
We've had good quarterback play. Geno played good QB in Seattle. Russell played good QB in Seattle, but never had O-line play like they've had this year.
Right.
And the great thing is they're all young, right? They're going to be able to play together the next 3-4 years. That, too, I think, is what you need in Vegas. Don't just sign the veteran guy and the veteran Pete and like, oh, we'll patchwork it. No, man, you build that thing up front.
Right.
And the Kubiaks do that. They did in Denver. He did in Houston. He's done it where he's been. They did it in Seattle this year, and that's where the thing's got to start, especially in your division.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I've been putting into the atmosphere that Rashid Shaheed is going to come to Vegas with Kubiak. I've just been throwing it out there.
He's good, man.
I know he's a free agent.
He's really, really good.
I know Seattle would like to keep him.
You know what else he is, too? And you're going to feel this week covering these teams, and you probably already have. It's just a bunch of good dudes.
Yeah.
You know, like Seattle's just full of a bunch of really good human beings.
Right.
John and Mike at the top, Sam, and then you go through the list with JSN and Leonard. Like, there's just not – there's no drama. You know, they call that MOB, you know, just mission over BS.
Yeah.
And they're on a mission. And it's been pretty cool for us to watch.
Well, I'll tell you what, the mission looks like it's about to be completed. Obviously, there's one more game to go. They're the favorites in this one, so we'll definitely be paying attention to that. Before I let you go, Brock, you cover the college game as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on Fernando Mendoza?
Now, he's going to be fun.
Okay.
So if Kubiak's on one side of it, the other side is like, I think I'm peeling that onion with Fernando, be like, oh, this guy's quirky.
Yeah.
This guy marches to his own beat.
Right.
This guy got a little – and there's a little kind of like his head coach, Signetti.
Yeah.
There's a little more than the kind of let on.
Yeah.
You know, and I think – the more you get to learn him and see him now, I love his skill set. He's freaking tough.
Yeah.
What he did elevating that program, that's my number one thing and has been for 20 years. Like evaluating quarterbacks, do you elevate the people around you?
Right.
Or do they love you?
Yeah.
And will they lay their freaking, everything on the line for you?
Yeah.
He checks all those boxes. It'll be pretty fun.
It should be. It should be. Obviously, there's a lot that still
He's
has to happen.
Hit.
Right?
He's going to get hit.
He looks like a tough dude, and he's
does.
got it between the ears. That's my biggest thing.
Right.
It's like he's got it between the ears.
Does.
You know, this dude, you don't go to Yale or get at least accepted
Cal,
to go to Yale and then go to Cal. And you don't do that.
And just watch how people react around them.
Right.
You know, that's the ultimate test.
Yeah.
Just like it is in the NFL locker room. You know, and frankly, I think why Seattle pivoted from Geno a little bit. Like, not Sam.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
Sam got carried on his shoulders in that Minnesota locker room,
he
man.
Sure did.
That resonated with me. Like. These dudes love him.
Right.
And they love him in Seattle, and hopefully you can find one that they'll love in Vegas too.
So there it is. There was I'm trying to get as much information. So when Klint Kubiak, when and if, I should say, because nothing is official until it's official, which can't happen until at least Monday. But at least people know exactly what to expect. And there's a lot of, people that are concerned about, well, he's not a cerebral guy. He's not a guy that is rah-rah. He doesn't command the room. He's going to have to learn that. And, I just want to kind of get so many different people's thoughts on it just so, Raider Nation knows what's, and who's going to be entering the organization if and when he signs that contract. And, of course, you heard what he had to say about Fernando Mendoza as well. I really do think that's a start of a new chapter for the Raiders. I'm excited about it. Kubiak and Mendoza 2026, right? That's the get down for the Raiders at Allegiant Stadium. And I think that, like I said, if they make the right decisions, they put that offensive line in place, obviously get some more weapons. And it's not going to be an overnight process, but this will be the beginning of a new chapter. It does feel like. Now, they've got to go put the work in. I could talk about it, but they've got to be about it. Hopefully you enjoyed that conversation. What's on your mind? Your calls and texts will close out the show. 707-654-4693. We'll hear from you next. Before we get to that, though, I do want to tell you about a couple more sponsors here on the show, and the first one is Robinhood. What if sports were traded like markets? Now you can put your sports IQ to work in real time with Robinhood Prediction Markets. It's not you against the house. It's you participating in a live market. You could buy or sell your positions live all game long. Use your sports knowledge in the moments that matter. Robinhood Prediction Markets changes the game. It's people moving the action. So when momentum shifts, you can move with it. You always knew the game, right? At least you thought you did, but you never had a dynamic way to apply that knowledge. Now you can actually take part live in a market powered by people. You're no longer just a spectator. Play by play, you decide. Trade every play with Robinhood. Now available across the U.S. Download the Robinhood app now to begin. Futures and cleared swaps trading involves significant risk and is not appropriate for everyone. Event contracts are offered by Robinhood LLC, a registered futures commission merchant and swap firm. I also want to tell you about Home Chef. As the new year gets going, and it's going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner's a big one. Between busy work days, cold winter nights, and packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference, and that's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door. Easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meals kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease, and it's easy to see why. Meals will come ready to fit your schedule, 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or quick lunches. Over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and different dietary choices. Recipes are simple, but they feel elevated. Even restaurant quality with dishes co-created by chefs like Gordon Ramsay. It saves time and money. Home Chef customers save an average of $86 per month on groceries. For a limited time, Home Chef is offering all listeners of the Locked On Raiders podcast 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Must be an active subscriber to receive that free dessert. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and text straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. We do want to thank you so much for making this the first listen of the day. Let's go ahead and get in a call from TJ from Humboldt County. He's calling to talk about a potential Maxx Crosby trade and how he feels about it. Here's TJ.
What's up, Q? This is your boy TJ from Humboldt County, 707. But we up in Humboldt, you know what I'm saying? First time caller. I just want to touch in on the Maxx Crosby trade, man. The way I feel about it, man, I don't want to see him go. I don't want to see him go. But at the same time, man, the draft capital we could get from bro, you know what I mean? John Spivey didn't draft him. He's 3 regimes removed from the regime that drafted him. And so at this point, man, I love Max, but nothing comes before the shield, you know. So if we can get a couple first rounders, I say a first round this year, maybe a first round next year for Max, I take that. You know what I'm saying? And let Max go to a team. Let Max win, man. It'd be a win-win for both of us, man. Let Max go win. You know what I mean? And maybe in a few years he come back as a Raider. You know what I'm saying? Once he's an actual veteran and comes back on the veteran minimum and retire as a Raider. But it just makes more sense for both of us to just let bygones be bygones and let's go ahead. Max, you go to a team that's actual contender next season, and in return you pay us back by giving us some draft picks, man, and maybe we can build on the future, man, and come back in 4 or 5 years and the Raiders will be in a different position that we in than we are now, you know. I don't know, man. Just let me know, Q. Just let me know. It's your boy TJ, man. Like I said, 707 Humboldt. You know what I'm saying? 707 Humboldt. We out here, baby. Raider Nation. We out.
TJ, thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And I don't think anyone wants to see Max traded, right? But I also don't think anyone would fault him for wanting the chance to play for a winner. If there's a team that wants to make that move, the most important thing is similar to what I said in segment number 1, the team needs to get the proper return. If, in fact, they do move him, you've got to get the proper return. Don't trade him away for pennies on the dollar. Like, don't go and, trade away a bone-in ribeye and get $1, store steak return, right? You know what I'm saying? Like, a bone-in ribeye is super expensive and super good. Don't go get that dollar store steak and think, in return, oh, here you go. Here's a bone-in ribeye, but it's only going to cost you $1. Yeah, don't do that, right? You got to make sure that you get your great return if you're going to, in fact, move Maxx Crosby, if, in fact, he wants to get moved. Thanks so much for the call, TJ. I appreciate you. Up next, got a text from New York Old School Raider. Says, Q, New York Old School Raider, I'm excited about Klint and Fernando. I appreciate you slow rolling of our 2026 expectation, but let's keep it real. 2 years ago, 6 quarterbacks were drafted in the first 12 picks. 4 have led their teams to the playoffs. 4 have more playoff wins than Herbert or Carr. 3 have led their teams to win their division. 3 have taken their team to the Final Four. 1 is in the Super Bowl in just 2 years. Why not us? That's New York Old School Raider. Thanks for the text. I appreciate you, and I don't blame you. As a matter of fact, I know that there's going to be owners. Look, there was 10 head coaches that were replaced this past offseason, right? I mean, there was 10 head coaching vacancies. After this Super Bowl is over, there's going to be some owners that hired those coaches. The Raiders could be one of them to say, hey, you see what the Patriots just did? You see what Seattle did in a couple of years. You see what, the Jaguars have done. You see what all these teams have done and turn things around quickly. You better do it as well. I'm not saying that that's fair, and that's why I'm not going to try to set the bar and say, oh, this is what the Raiders are going to do. They're going to turn it around quickly. Could they? Sure. But I want to take a more realistic approach. If they are, ahead of schedule, like I thought Denver, the first year with Sean Payton was ahead of schedule. What'd they do? They won 8 games. the first year with them. I thought that was ahead of schedule. I thought that they were really going to kind of slow play things. And then the first year they got Bo Nix, they made the playoffs. Second year, who knows what would have happened. I talked to Keyshawn Johnson on Thursday here on Radio Row, and I said, yeah, they were a broken ankle away from going to the Super Bowl. He said, no, they were a kick a field goal away from going to the Super Bowl. Like, take the 3 points. They didn't take the 3 points. So, yeah, it can happen. I just don't want to try to, oversell, right, and then underproduce. I'd rather undersell and the Raiders overproduce, right? Hey, if I think that they're only going to win 4 or 5 games and they go and win 6 or 7 or 7 or 8, I think everyone, if the Raiders come out of 2026 with 7 or 8 wins, I think everyone would be like, man, okay, they're heading the right directions. They've won 7 games in the last 2 seasons combined. So I'm not going to sit here and say 7, 8 wins is what they're going to do. I'm just going to sit back, watch, and see how it goes. We'll all play the win-loss game when the schedule comes out. But, I'm again, John Spytek, not Q. John Spytek said this is not going to be a one-year turnaround. So if the GM said it, I think that he knows the team better than I do. I'm going to trust what he had to say. Thanks so much for the text. Appreciate you. Up next, got a call from the 925. He's calling to talk about offensive line coaches, in particular the one from Philly or the one that used to be in Philly. Here's the call from the 925.
Yo, what's good, Q? What's good, Ari? I just seen that the Eagles offensive line coach, Jeff Stoutland, is no longer going to be with the Eagles next season. And obviously we don't have an offensive line coach. And what they've been able to do in Philly with the O-line, I mean, they have the tush push, they have they always usually have a pretty good O-line. So I'm not even going to try to lie and act like I know too much about this guy, the schemes he runs, all this and that. But all I do know is that he's a winner, he's proven it, and he knows what he's doing. So, and we need that position filled with someone who is a winner and knows what they're doing. Obviously, someone that will genuinely build this line and know what to do, the right moves, where to put the right people and everything. So, just a thought. I honestly don't know too much about this guy, but he just sounds good on paper. So just let me know what you think and what we should do. Love the show. See you.
Thanks so much for the call. Appreciate you. And yeah, man, that Eagles offensive line has been really good and talented. And it's funny that you mentioned, I was actually doing some research and talking, and maybe I'll get my guy Mike Gill to join my show later on this afternoon. And he's in South Jersey, and he's from ESPN, but he knows the Eagles like a glove, and he could talk to us about the offensive line situation and, is that coach going to be available and how important he was for that Eagles offensive line. He got his run game coordinator duty stripped away from him last year, and then with the new offensive coordinator coming in, he's bringing his own guys in. He did tell me that, and so that's kind of something that's got all of Philadelphia up in arms. So, he could be available. But at the end of the day, Klint Kubiak, if he in fact takes the job and signs the paperwork come Monday or Tuesday, whatever the case may be, that he has to make the hires, right? The Raiders can't go out there and do it. They have to let him have that synergy and bring in his guys. That's got to be part of the interview process. And I'm sure that was part of him interviewing the Raiders. Hey, man, you're going to make sure I'm allowed to hire my own guys, right? I'm not going to sit here and have arranged marriages. We've seen that play out before. You don't want that again. So I would just, if he wants – any of these coaches that are out there available, those are the guys that he should go get. So we'll see how it all plays out, but that's a weird situation in Philadelphia, and it's crazy. They're such a good team, but they're the one team that's so uncomfortable. They're comfortable with being uncomfortable. They're just weird and quirky, but they've won a Super Bowl, been in a Super Bowl multiple times in the last couple of years, so they're doing something right. But man, they are a weird bunch. That is for sure. Thanks so much for that call. Definitely appreciate you. I got a text from Jamal from Camden, New Jersey. He said, what's good, Q? It's Jamal from Camden, New Jersey. Quick statement. Everyone is saying that Klint Kubiak is going to be our head coach, but I'll believe it when officially it happens. I don't want to get my feelings crushed if he doesn't sign with us. I don't want him to do us how Cliff Kingsbury did us. Thank you and Ari for everything that y'all do. Raider Nation for life. That's Jamal from Camden, New Jersey. Understandable. That's why I keep saying for all intent purposes he'll be the head coach, but nothing's official until he signs the paperwork. I don't think this is a Cliff Kingsbury situation. He didn't sign with the Raiders because the Raiders didn't have means to get to a quarterback. And he knew that what the Raiders had, Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell wasn't it. So he didn't like that. He didn't like the length of the contract. Not to mention Antonio Pierce was a first-year head coach. There was a lot that he looked at and said, yeah, Jaden Daniels in Washington is a much better situation than what the situation the Raiders have. So that's why he bailed out. I do believe that Klint Kubiak will, be the next head coach of the Raiders. But you're right, until it gets signed on the dotted line. nothing is guaranteed. So thanks so much. I do appreciate it. And I'll close out with a call from the 437. He's calling as a new booty caller to talk about Rashid Shaheed and how the Raiders could get him and what he actually might be once Sunday's game gets wrapped up. Here's a call from the 437.
Hey, Q. First-time caller, you booty here. It's been a while since I've been listening to the show, and I'd rather call now. So just short and sweet, I'm going to jump in the Rashid Shaheed boss. This guy seems to be a very good fit for us, and it could come in a familiar way. So he could have a great Super Bowl, good enough to get him the MVP honors, and then he gonna join us just like Desmond Howard did for the Packers, Brown from the Cowboys, and now Shaheed from the Seahawks. All this sweet, eh? That's it. Just calling to join the booty now, and that's it. Have a good one, man.
Thank you for the call. Appreciate you. And sorry I didn't get your name, or you left your name. You got it next time you call. I know you're a new booty caller, but you got to give me your name. I do appreciate you. And, yeah, man, I mean, look, I don't know what's going to happen on Sunday. I do believe the Seahawks are going to win, but Rashid Shaheed, the guy that I'm hoping that the Raiders end up getting, very well could be the MVP. If he takes one to the house, has a big, momentum shift, kick return, punt return, whatever the case may be, yeah, he could end up like Desmond Howard. And then Larry Brown, obviously, he had, Neil O'Donnell throwing, was it Neil O'Donnell? It was that Pittsburgh quarterback. I want to say it was Neil O'Donnell. Anyway, he threw that thing right to him twice. And then, of course, the Raiders signed him as a free agent, as an MVP, and gave him a whole bunch of money, and he didn't do anything for the Raiders. So if Rashid Shaheed does become the MVP and the Raiders do sign him as a free agent, hopefully he plays a lot better than those guys did for the silver and black. But I might even just go ahead and put him down and say he's going to be my Super Bowl MVP just because you put it in the atmosphere like that. So I might roll with that. So I'm going to give you credit, but you got to call me back, and you got to let me know what your name is. So thanks so much for that. It's going to wrap up the show. We do have the Raiders Squad show. I promise. I know I've said it the last 2 days, but Chantel was sick one day. Lincoln was sick the next day. So I think it's going to just be me and Chantel rock the show a little bit later on this morning, 7:30 to 8:30 a.m., right here where I'm sitting right now on Radio Row. So we'll close out the week strong with the Raiders Squad show. Of course, we'll talk some Super Bowl and more, and we'll do that a little bit later. But we're going to see what happens this weekend, and then, of course, get into Monday, and we'll all wait for Klint Kubiak to sign his contract as the Raiders' next head football coach. So enjoy the weekend, Raider Nation. Enjoy the Super Bowl. We'll talk again on Monday, and we'll see how quickly the Raiders can get their next head coach. But until then, Raider Nation, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.